From Wakefield, it's the Nolan Carr Night Show starring Nolan, inviting you to join Nolan as guest this week, Kevin Sutton, to the show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Nolan.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And as I was just saying to my wonderful, amazing guest this week, each time I do this in the last few weeks, you always want to do better than the previous week, or shoot high up and hopefully you can catch on a star and go flying. And I've been able to do it the last few weeks. And last year, whenever it was last time before the whole pandemic happened, there was a coach I saw on the sidelines that was enthusiastic, passionate, and into it, and encouraging, and really tried to, I would think set a good example, have a relationship with the players, to have them to look up to someone. And I said to myself, one day I hope to have the chance to sit down and chat with them. And I thought, who knows, maybe I will, maybe I won't, no big deal. But I'm fortunate enough, I sent out an email and he graciously emailed back, and we set something up and we're here, and it's a great pleasure and an honor, a big highlight for myself. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the one and only. He is the assistant coach for the Florida Gulf Coast University men's basketball program. He's the one and only Coach Kevin Sutton. Mr. Sutton, how are we doing today?
Oh, Nolan, I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for that introduction, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come on your show.
Oh, of course. Well, as I do with all my guests, I like to catch up with them. So how's the life going for Kevin Sutton right now during this wild time we find ourselves in?
Life is well. Life is going well. I really, like I said, I really appreciate you asking. My family's doing extremely well, and we're blessed. So thank you so much.
Now, last time I saw you at Rhode Island, now you're in a different spot, down in a place it has many more positives than Rhode Island does, especially in terms of the weather. So, in a time where it's been really crazy, and at a state that's been in the news a lot for their times with this pandemic and stuff, how's it been for you adjusting to being down there at Florida Gulf Coast in this weird situation?
Well, let me begin by saying that my family and I really enjoyed Rhode Island tremendously. Working at the university for 3 years on Coach David Cox's staff was a tremendous honor for me. We thoroughly enjoyed living in Jamestown. It's a quaint city, and it's just so nice and pleasant, a place that we'll certainly come back and visit. But we had also been praying for an opportunity to come to the state of Florida because we lived here before. And we wanted to stabilize our family. We have my wife and I have an 11-year-old daughter, and she has been moving every time that we moved for the last 10 years at George Washington University, then Georgetown, and then from Georgetown to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh to Rhode Island. So now she's of the age where she's wanting to establish friendships. And so we wanted to move back to the state of Florida, and we were blessed enough to have the opportunities that we have. My wife getting a job at St. Paul's, and my daughter attending that school, and then me having the opportunity to work here at Florida Gulf Coast. So it's just a tremendous opportunity for us. So all is going well. Thank you so much for asking.
Now with any new environment or situation, I'm sure it's nerve-wracking for you to have. I know practices, I'm sure just getting started. Have you spent any time with the new players? I'm sure you're in the same environment as them starting out fresh.
Absolutely. My official start date was June 7th, so I was here throughout the summer. And I have built and forged really good relationships with the players individually and collectively. I really like our team. I like our coaching staff. It's just been a great opportunity for me to be here and establish relationships with our players throughout the summer. And now that we are in a full swing of practice, our team is shaping up very nicely. So I'm really glad to, like I said, to be a part of the Florida Gulf Coast coaching staff.
Now, it's the same thing I would hope for, each location you've been at, and for any coach in general, I would assume, first year, there's players on the team who've been there for years prior. For you as an assistant coach, how do you, make sure that, these guys know that, you're part of the team that's in charge and, setting the standard instead of, them trying to run the show?
Well, you establish the relationships and relationships that are built upon trust. And so you earn their trust, by, working out with them and meeting them where they are. I'm a part of the coaching staff here at Florida Gulf Coast. So, the thing that I've done is to connect with the players on different levels. Academically, emotionally, and obviously athletically. So the way I carry myself as a coach and as a professional, it demands respect. And so I give respect, and the players in turn, they respect me for who I am and what I stand for and what I've been able to accomplish. So, I like I said, most important things I do is I'm consistent in my professionalism.
Well, that's always, something that, you want to have and set a high standard, because you don't want to, be on the nightly news with not being able to do that. Now, if I could go back for a while, and this is, kind of jumping to another section, I'm sure each year you reflect on the season and think about how lucky you are in this. Is this something that, was this something that you always had planned that you wanted to do coaching, or is this something that where like it just so happened to happen and, the stars lined up?
I've always known I wanted to be a coach. I was very fortunate to have good coaches in my life, starting with my father. He was my first football coach. And then, I had several other, coaches that really impacted my life and poured into me. Coach Reginald Kitchen, who was our AAU coach, Stu Better, who was my high school basketball coach, and Pat Dolan, who was my freshman, coach at Falls Church High School. And these coaches have all poured into me, when I was at a young age. And so I watched them and observed them and appreciated them. And I knew that one day I wanted to be a coach just like them, because I really respected that they took time to pour into me as a person, and me as a student, and into me as an athlete as well. So I've always known that I wanted to get into coaching.
Now, I never played basketball in high school, and obviously not in college, or else people probably would know more about me around the country as other players. But I have two sisters who play basketball in high school. One's at URI. She doesn't play on the team there, but both of them decent players. But I can tell how much hard work goes into the sport, especially nowadays. To be a pretty good playing to get starting time, regardless of the level. Were you the type of kid that could always be found in the gym, working extra hours and, putting the extra work to, keep your roster sport with people breathing down your neck?
Absolutely. I mean, I have always loved sports. I played football and basketball as growing up. And then going into my ninth grade year, I focused primarily on basketball. But yes, absolutely, I was the type of player that was always willing to play for long hours and also work on my game. So I was either playing the game, watching the game through on video or on TV, and or practicing, and or attending the camp, because I always loved the game of basketball. And I'm a firm believer that if you love the game, it'll love you back, and it certainly has done that for me.
Now, I doing my research, I know that you're from Virginia Falls, Falls Church, Virginia. I'm curious, what was the basketball scene like when you were growing up there? Was there a high level of talent when you were growing up playing?
Oh, absolutely, and it still is. I grew up in what we affectionately called the DMV, which is the district, which stands for Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. So, basketball in the DMV is unbelievable, and still is. We produce professional basketball players like Kevin Durant and, Michael Beasley, Tywone Lawson, and the list goes on and on and on. Those are more recent pros, Quinn Cook. But basketball in the Washington D.C. area is the primary sport. We have great coaching and teaching at all levels. The youth level, the AAU scene, middle school, and high school. And so, basketball is always played at a high level. So living in the DMV was a great opportunity for me to see unbelievable basketball as I grew up and played, in that area. So I'm real fortunate for that.
I'm curious in some sense, in situations of, looking back on it, how much of that time playing basketball, high school and college, I guess, it still resonates and is still, part of your, basketball, sense while coaching nowadays?
Oh, absolutely. Basketball has always been good to me, because like I said to you before, I've always loved the game of basketball and it's always loved me back, and so through having, big dreams and working hard and loving the game, it's afforded me the opportunity to earn a scholarship to James Madison University, earn my degree and be the first person in my family to earn a scholarship, as well as the first person in my family to graduate from college. The game of basketball has, taken me around the world, either as a player or as a coach. I've had the opportunity to coach in China, go to Lithuania, coach for USA Basketball and win 2 gold medals, win a national championship at the AAU level as a player, win national championship as an assistant coach at St. John's Prospect Hall, and then also win a national championship as a head coach at Montverde Academy. So this is all through the game of basketball, but the bigger point to all of it is it has taught me, so many life lessons, and also has given me the opportunity to meet a lot of great people that have also continued to impact my life still to this day. So the game of basketball has been really good to me because I've always had a great deal of respect for it.
I want to talk about briefly that you mentioned it. Obviously basketball is humongous here in the United States, and it's spreading out to other places, but it's also pretty big in China. It's produced some players, Yao Ming to be set an example, as I should say. What was that like playing coaching over in China? I'm sure that definitely was an interesting time.
It was a tremendous opportunity. I was working for Nike. I was a high school coach at Montverde Academy, and then Nike asked me to go to China and conduct a coaching clinic for 250 coaches from the Chinese basketball associations. And so I went over there for a week. My wife and I flew there, and we conducted a week-long clinic. And then what we did was, after the coaches spent the week with us at camp, then they went off to their respective cities and they implemented like the programs that we came up with. So it was a tremendous honor. In China, basketball is huge. Like you said, with Yao Ming's success in the NBA playing for the Houston Rockets, it became a global game that a lot of kids over there play. So to have the opportunity to go there and see that, it just helped broaden my horizons and give me an even more an appreciation for the game of basketball and for the opportunity to travel with the game of basketball.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, I talked about the relationships and making sure you're the one who's in charge and setting an example compared to players who might have been before. As basketball's progressed, both the ability, ego, expectations of these players has grown tremendously. And as a coach, how do you make sure that those three, but more specifically ego and those players' expectations are all in check during the season?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, you have to be always try to be truthful and try to be honest with them, and you try to establish relationships that's based on that trust, and you have to try to help them set realistic expectations for themselves and what their abilities, are and where they are. And then you try to hold them to that, you hold them to that standard. But it first starts with establishing a relationship with the student athlete and earning their trust, because the one thing that we do know for sure, Nolan, is that in order to get to their head, we must go through their heart. And I really believe that. And so it's all about teachable moments. I use coaching as an opportunity, as a platform to impact as many lives as I possibly can, and with the idea of creating, living trophies. So it just makes sure that, that's why I try to make sure that, I use every opportunity as a teachable moment.
Now, and I think a byproduct of, the development and, growth in positive or negative way, depending how you see it, of these egos and ability and, expectations, in the last few years, you've seen, and it's been across, not just in basketball, but football as well. You've seen a lot of situations and problems, I guess you can consider it, with the transfer portal. Now, for someone who's, had a role in bringing players in and having them come to the team, how do you deal with these players? So you spent this time with just, to not complete these promises of playing for 4 years to then go to different schools because, they think that their expectations are higher than what you think they are.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, people need to realize that, sports, are a business as well. We love them, as a sport, but there's the other side of it. It's a big business, and we have to understand that. And so, I say all the time, love the game, but learn that it is a business. And the sooner that you can learn that it is a business, the better off you are. So both the coaches and the players have to, make non-emotional decisions. What's in the best interest for themselves. And so that's why you see coaches having the opportunity to move into, different jobs. And that's why you see the NCAAs has set up the transfer portals, trying to get the student athletes the best, experience when they go to the collegiate level. And with that being said, there's, kids transfer for various reasons. And right, wrong, or indifferent, it's just, it's something that's here to stay, and we better all make adjustments to it because, it's not going anywhere. And as my career, I'm extremely proud and blessed to have coached, in places like James Madison, Old Dominion, George Washington, Georgetown, Pittsburgh, URI, and now FGCU, and each one of those opportunities prepared me, to be successful coach at that spot. Yeah. All is about the student athlete and what's in their best interest, and then also, what's in my best interest, as well. And it's, what's really good about that is that, when it's done right, then you can have a lot of success. So.
Well, I give you a lot of props, last year, yourself and the rest of the coaching staff when you're at URI, and because, that was the situation last year, and, yourself and the rest of the coaching staff tried their best to deal with what it was, because I'm sure that definitely was a stressful situation, but, the show goes on. Now, you mentioned it with coaching, how coaches can find different scenarios in different places. It seems as though, and it's also, with other sports, that coaches don't seem necessarily all the time, staying in one location for a long period of time, because I feel as though most programs or schools care more about the statistics and how they did in the records than, what they're trying to do. In your own opinion, how important is job security, when you're looking to coach somewhere new?
Oh, job security is very important. It should be important to everyone. And I think that I've always gone to whatever university, like I said before, and I started off at James Madison University, went to Old Dominion, been at GW, George Washington University, Georgetown, Pittsburgh, and Rhode Island, and now Florida Gulf Coast. But when I took a job at all of those places, I took the job with, the idea that that's where I would want to be and would like to stay. But it's sometimes, like at Pittsburgh, we only lasted 2 years as a staff, because the business side of it required that the head coach to be fired. So that meant the staff got let go. So sometimes this change is necessary. So job security is always important, and that's what we're always after. But, sometimes it's out of your control.
Yeah.
And because it's such a big business, you don't always, you're not always in control of your own destiny, is what I'm trying to say.
Now, as someone who's had success, and you've mentioned it, briefly here on the show, which is very, congratulatory and commendable as it should be. From a coaching perspective, why do you think that people care more about, have more of an issue of, statistics in terms of how the team's doing in their record, or who's doing how much in this in the stat log, compared to, how they're going to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now, down the line in the program?
Well, it's all about wins and losses, and what success can you have in the immediate future, so everybody from the fan base to the alumni base, they want to have a successful season, so they want to do whatever it takes to ensure that you have a successful season. So winning and losing is really, really important, because when you have a very successful season at the collegiate level and you go and make the NCAAs, it's proven, that with each round you are awarded more money that comes back into your athletic program, and it can impact your university. I'll give you an example would be like UMBC when they upset Virginia and won that particular game. Their university's website crashed because so much was from alumni and from current students is wanting more gear from the bookstore, a t-shirt or hat. Also the interest level in applications went up, because they were on a national level and had a great deal of exposure. And that same thing happened to Florida Gulf Coast when they went to the Sweet 16 and upset Georgetown and upset San Diego State. The university, gained a great deal of interest and media interest, and really helped the university grow quickly. Applications went up. People more interest they had because people had saw the school and gained a great deal of exposure, and a lot of that comes with winning. So that's the reason why people put a high premium on winning and losing.
Well, it's something that I think that from a fan perspective, I think obviously it's definitely frustrating if a team's not doing well, or the player's not living up or to an expectation that a fan thinks they have. But it's the long-term process, and see how it goes from there. Now, something I want to talk about quickly on the show, though I'd like to talk about more, but we don't have all the time in the world. Is your Living Trophies, I don't want to say experiment, but your project, and obviously you spent time working on it and growing it, but what made you want to take this concept over the last years from the ground floor all the way up to the penthouse suite? Because it's something that's definitely curious to me.
Well, Living Trophies didn't just start last year over the pandemic. Living Trophies has been a part of my coaching philosophy throughout my 37 years of coaching. And when I was the head coach at Montverde Academy in Florida, it's an international private boarding school, I had the opportunity to coach young men and encounter students that were from all around the world. And that's when I fully realized the impact that I had, my platform that I had as the head basketball coach at Montverde, and the impact that I was having on the student athletes, and the full scope of my responsibility was right there in front of me. And in year 4, we went 30-0. We won a national championship, and after the game was over, I was interviewed by a reporter, and he said, "How would you describe this team?" And I said, "They're my living trophies." And the reporter was taken back, and he's like, "Wow, that's a great term. What does it mean?" And Nolan, if you think about it this way, when an individual wins a trophy, or a team wins a trophy, they put it in a trophy case, and it's left in that trophy case for 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years. And then you bring that trophy out. Well, once you take it out of the trophy case, 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years, it has 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years of it hasn't moved. But when you take the opportunity on a daily basis to be a ladle that pours positively into the student athlete's bucket, and you fill it up by listening to their dreams and listening to their hopes and listening to their desires, and you take that opportunity to impact their lives, then now you're creating what I call living trophies. So Living Trophies has always been a part of my coaching platform, like I said, but during the pandemic is when I took it to another level. I started the Living Trophies Master Zoom class, and the class is all about professionalism, and how to grow as a professional. We never talked about X and an O or plays or zones or anything like that. We just talked about what it takes to be a professional and how to grow professionally, and had unbelievable speakers. We met every Thursday night at 7:00, and I gained so much, in so many different areas. And and so did the participants that came on a regular basis. And I would invite a guest, and we would do it through Zoom, and they would stay on for an hour and a half. And some of our guests are Tommy Amaker, the head coach at Harvard University, Paul Hewitt, the head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers G League team. We had Jesse Washington, who wrote John Thompson Jr.'s book, I Came as a Shadow. We had let's see here, Craig Robinson, the head of the NABC, and just an amazing list and a cross section of people. Heather Macy with emotion, she did emotional intelligence. We had a AD platform where we had athletic directors come on, and then probably one of the best shows that we did was when we tackled the social injustice and racial injustice topic. And we had student athletes that came on and talked about what they were doing with their platforms. And that was probably one of the most powerful shows that we had. So Living Trophies is something that's near and dear to my heart, and something that I want to continue to grow hopefully with an eye on eventually writing a book. But the Living Trophies Master Zoom class has just been a tremendous platform for me, and a platform for all the people that come and actively participate and our members of the Master Zoom class.
What do you hope that, whether it be current coaches and, players, or, future coaches and players get out of, this, if they come across your Living Trophies?
It's my hope, my mission, and my desire that the coach will start to develop their emotional intelligence and learn to grow themselves professionally. One thing that we talk about all the time is that there's a huge difference between being a pro and being a professional. In the word professional, there are 12 letters. And my student athletes say all the time, and a lot of people say, I want to be a pro, I want to be a pro. And it's a term that we hear all the time. And I tell people, I said, well, if you just want to be a pro, that's the first three letters, and that represents one contract. So that gives you a job, and after 3 years, if you aren't good enough or aren't talented enough, or your problems are, getting in your way, and you don't know what it takes to be a professional, then you're out of the league. But when you take the opportunity to learn those other 9 important, letters that make up the word professional, that gives you a career. Come to work early, stay late, work ethic, being a great teammate, being great in the community, being a servant leader, all those intangible things that help you, become a professional. So it's my desire that we can teach professionalism. It's my desire that we teach about the holistic approach to development. And then it's my desire, with the Living Trophies Master Zoom class, to impact as many lives as I possibly can with the platform that I have, as a coach and a mentor, leader, and educator.
It's a pretty, powerful thing. Good on you for doing this, because, it definitely, helps and, inspires the future, generation of players. Now, before we end this week and on this episode, I want to do a segment that I have done the last 2 weeks called the One Word Challenge, where I give my guests this week topics that have some sort of connection to them. So whatever first word or sentence that comes to your mind. FGCU.
Fantastic place to work.
Fort Myers, Florida.
Beautiful.
College education.
Powerful and necessary.
Fundamentals.
The building blocks to all success that you possibly could have.
Falls Church, Virginia.
The best place to grow up. I had a tremendous childhood in Falls Church, Virginia, and at the James Lee Recreation Center.
Basketball.
Love, pure joy.
Kevin Sutton.
Educator.
Well, sir, I want to sincerely thank you for spending this time with me, this episode of the Nolan Carr Night Show. I greatly appreciate it. It means a lot.
But Nolan, thank you so much. The quality of your questions always determines the depth of a person's answer. So you ask very good questions, and hopefully I was able to give you some quality answers with some depth to them.
You provide an ample amount. It was more than I expect. It was more than I could have asked for, and I greatly appreciate it. And for all of you out there, Thank you for tuning in this week. If you liked what you watched or listened to, depending on where you saw it, because I know there's lots of you out there tuning in each week, like the Tonight Show. Do us a favor, subscribe on YouTube, follow on the audio platforms, leave a like, comment, click that share button, notification button. Tells myself that you enjoy returning to each week. I greatly appreciate it. Follow the Instagram account, Nolan Carr at Night Show on Instagram, and the Twitter account, Nolan Carr at Night for Nolan Carr Night for all updates and news regarding the show. And in the words of Johnny Carson, a visual heartfelt good night.